Hey guys, this is Chris with Kingship Tech. Thanks for coming to the channel. Today's video is going to be another episode of Camera Talk. So let's get right into the video. So like I said, this is another episode of Camera Talk. It happens to be my most favorite topic. I love cameras. I think they're so fun, and they're definitely just tools to have and to be creative with, and I absolutely love being creative. And it is 2020, and I thought maybe you are looking into buying another camera or buying your first camera. So in 2020, there is an absolute amazing amount of cameras to choose from. That is kind of the beautiful part of the time that we live in today, is that there's multiple cameras to choose from. Canon is one of the founders, Canon and Nikon. Now Sony is a huge runner-up. FUJIFILM making incredible cameras. Even Olympus that is making some really good cameras, and then Panasonic as well. So those are the top cameras out there that you would want to look at, or you may have already looked at and are considering. But for 2020, and especially if you're starting out, like this is for the amateur user, so maybe you're watching this and you might be interested in getting a camera, or maybe even getting your second camera, because honestly, this right here is something that we all currently own, and today they're making amazing cameras in there and right into your phone. And so really, there is some benefits to having an actual camera like this to tote around with you everywhere you go. In searching for a camera for today in 2020, I think without a doubt you have to consider the mirrorless system. Especially for a beginner, it's going to be the most ideal camera to start out with, because it's easier to use than this like traditional DSLR camera. If you don't know what a DSLR versus a mirrorless is, well, in this camera right here, you'll see there is a mirror right there. There's a mirror in front of the sensor. What the mirror does is it allows you to look through the optical viewfinder to give you a live view. So you'll look through here, it mirrors and shows you outside the lens, gives you a live view of what you're looking at. But it is deceiving because it is not the actual image of what you're going to be taking. As soon as you hit that shutter, it's not the image, it's going to be what you see afterwards, the digital image that you have to look on the actual screen itself. For a DSLR, it takes a little bit more skill and understanding of how to set up your photo. Now naturally, you can shoot in auto mode on any camera and get a decent picture, but when it comes to actually photography and video work, you really want to take control of your settings to get it to look like how you want it to look like. And when you look through the optical viewfinder of a DSLR, you have to just keep aware of your metering systems to make sure you're exposed correctly. Overexposed, everything is white, and underexposed, everything is dark. And so that's what you do. But when it comes to a mirrorless system, this is exactly where it shines. In this viewfinder, I would, instead of having an optical viewfinder, I would have an electronic viewfinder to look through, which gives me the exact image I'm going to be taking. As soon as I hit that, that's what what I see is what I'm going to get. So it allows you to expose your pictures before you take the shot, and you know exactly what you're going to see. And so if you changed your f-stop or you changed your shutter speed, it changes it live in your viewfinder. So that's what I think is impressive about mirrorless systems, is that anybody could really now pick up a mirrorless camera, and with a little bit of practice and the right settings, you should be able to get the hang of correctly exposing your image through the viewfinder. Another way, obviously, if you have a DSLR, you can always shoot with the screen here, but to me it's a little slower. If you're outside, you might get a glare and you can't really see it, and that's where you can look into your viewfinder and get it without glare from the sun or the outdoors. I personally really like using the viewfinder because I feel like it gives me a correct how I compose the shot. It gives me an even better view of what it might look like. Using your viewfinder is highly recommended to get going with photography. But the nice thing again is with the mirrorless system, you can literally keep your eye up here and keep shooting and know exactly what you're shooting and what the settings look like and how it's exposed. Otherwise, with a DSLR, you have to do what's called chimping, where you just go boom. And maybe you've seen photographers do that and look at their, well, that's because they're using a DSLR and they don't have the ability to see it live in their viewfinder. Today, if you're looking for a camera and if you're new to photography, I definitely highly recommend getting a mirrorless system, because for one, it's the future of cameras, and two, it's going to be easier for you to get started and it won't be as frustrating for you to get started. Not saying that the DSLR is dead, it's just it's a little bit older and you need to do a little bit more schooling, I guess. You need to go get a better understanding of photography. It takes a little bit more effort with a DSLR than it does with a mirrorless system. The other thing about mirrorless systems, if you're looking for 2020, is they are generally a lot smaller in size than this DSLR. Now I'm shooting with the Canon EOS RP, and so I can't show you the comparison, but I already did a comparison on the last video of Camera Talk with the RP, when I talked about the ergonomics of the camera and I compared it to the 80D. So if you want to go back and look at that, see that right there. But that size difference is major. This is a crop sensor camera, so a full frame would be slightly bigger than this, but the RP is a full frame and it is smaller in size than this, a lot smaller than this. And so it's lighter, that means it's easier to take with you everywhere. Kind of, I mean, because the RF glass is generally a lot bigger and larger because it's full frame. But when you're talking about a mirrorless system, like let's say the Canon M50 for example, that camera is way small. It's a tiny little camera. That means it's going to be easier for you to carry everywhere you go, and you're going to want to take it everywhere you go. It's not going to be a pain, you know, having all this extra gear everywhere. It's going to be really nice to be able to take with you everywhere you go. That is another reason to get a mirrorless system, because they're light, they're small, compact, and they're not a hassle to bring with you. Now, the other thing you have to think about is if you're going to be getting into it, is the camera system itself. Like I said, you have the Canon, Nikon, Fuji, Sony, Panasonic, all those companies makes mirrorless systems. Olympus even makes a mirrorless camera, and they're all very compact and they all compete. And so now at that point you have to decide what kind of ecosystem that you're willing to buy into, because that's the biggest part about getting a mirrorless camera, is the ability to switch out lenses whenever you want to, any range that's going to fit whatever you're shooting or videoing. That matters probably even more so than the body matters, because the lenses are going to keep, and they're the investment. The bodies are something that you're going to upgrade over time and get different ones that are maybe have better features, but really your investment is in the lenses. So when you start looking at a camera to buy for 2020, you have to look at not just the features of the body, but you have to look at the availability and the pricing and all of the range of options when it comes to lenses. Without making this a super long video, I just highly recommend, if you're going to be shopping for a camera in 2020, definitely take a look at the mirrorless system cameras. And I think maybe for the next Camera Talk episode, we're going to go into more detail about what camera to buy, the systems, the brands, the differences between those, and then maybe steer you in a direction of where to go next. That's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed, got something out of that Camera Talk episode. Thanks for joining me on this channel. Please consider hitting that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.